Welcome back, everyone, to the English Prep Podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really going to dig into something that honestly can make a huge difference in your speaking test scores.
Yeah.
Whether you're tackling IELTS or TOEFL. We often hear about needing good vocabulary, solid grammar, all that stuff. But what we're going to explore today is why the way you structure your answers, well, it's just crucial. Maybe even more so than just knowing loads of words.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, think of it this way. You could have fantastic words, right?
Sure.
But if your ideas are all over the place, it's going to be tough for the examiner to follow.
Exactly. They won't get your point.
Right. So we're going to look at how clear structure can make even, let's say, simpler English sound much more impressive, more confident, too.
Yeah, confident. It's about making responses clear, convincing. Examiners aren't just ticking boxes for fancy vocab, are they? They're listening to see if you can organize thoughts logically.
And present relevant stuff. Develop your ideas, back them up.
And without that strong framework, even if your English is pretty decent, your answers might just come across as a bit messy or incomplete.
Totally. And that, unfortunately, can really pull down your score, even if you know the language well. But flip that around.
Yeah.
If you have a solid structure in place, even using more straightforward English, the impact, it can be so much greater. It just shows clear thinking. You can express yourself effectively.
Okay, so structure is king. Where do we even start building that? How about we talk about that PRP method? I've heard about that.
Yes, PRP is fantastic. Such a useful tool for quickly getting your thoughts in order. It's an acronym. Stands for point, reason, example, and then point, again, restating it.
Point, reason, example, point. P-R-E-P. Okay, simple enough. But how does someone actually use this? Like in the heat of the moment, in the test?
Okay, good question. Imagine you're asked something like, do you think having a car is important today? Right.
Yeah.
Using PP, you could go, I believe having a car is still very important for many people. That's your point.
Got it. Point first.
Then, this is mainly because it provides a great deal of flexibility and convenience. Your reason.
Makes sense. Why is it important? Because flexibility.
Exactly. Then the example. For instance, just this week, I needed to travel to several different places for work. Couldn't really do that easily on public transport, so my car saved loads of time.
Nice. A specific example.
Yeah, makes it real. And finally, restate the point. Therefore, despite other options, I still think a car plays a crucial role for independence and efficiency.
Wow. Okay. You can really see how that works. It creates such a clear, focused response. State your opinion, back it up, give an example, wrap it up. It feels complete.
It really does. And examiners recognize that kind of structure. It signals clear, organized thinking. Now, another really key thing.
What's that?
Making absolutely sure you answer all parts of the question. Super important, especially in certain sections of both tests.
It sounds kind of obvious, doesn't it? But I can totally see how under pressure you might miss a bit, especially if it's like a 3-part question.
Oh, it happens all the time. Seriously. Like, IELTS Part 2, the cue card might say, describe a time you learned something new. Say what you learned, where you learned it, and how you felt about it.
Okay, 3 distinct things there. What, where, how you felt.
Exactly, and someone might talk loads about what they learned and where, but completely forget to mention how they actually felt.
Right, and that means an incomplete answer.
Precisely. You need all those bits. Same in TOEFL independent speaking, maybe state an opinion and give reasons. You gotta do both.
So what's a practical tip then for making sure you cover all the bases on those multi-part questions?
Well, if you get prep time, like in IELTS Part 2, definitely jot down keywords for each part. Just quick notes.
Okay.
Even if there's no formal prep time, just taking a quick mental inventory, like, okay, they asked for X, Y, and Z. Just check them off mentally before you start speaking. It helps.
And practice, I guess. Practicing with those kinds of questions.
Oh, absolutely. Practice trains you to listen carefully for all the required elements. It becomes second nature.
Makes total sense. Okay, so you've got your points. You know you're hitting everything in the question. How do you make it flow?
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like just a list.
Yeah, good point. It shouldn't be choppy. And that's where linking words and phrases are your best friends. They're like the glue or bridges between your sentences.
Yeah, the connectors. Like and, but, so, but more advanced ones too.
Exactly. Loads of useful ones. If you want to add an idea, you could use furthermore, moreover, in addition, explaining why. Use because, since, or as a result.
Right. Cause and effect.
showing a contrast. Try, however, on the other hand, although,
Good for comparing things.
and for giving examples really important use, for instance, for example, such as,
Okay, so it's not just having the ideas, but
Yeah.
showing the examiner how they connect, how one builds on the next.
precisely that. Each sentence should ideally, link back or build on the previous one. Avoid those sudden jumps. Linking words make your train of thought really easy to follow.
Gotcha. Now, what about those moments when your mind goes blank for a second or you just need a tiny bit of time to think before answering? Is it okay to pause?
Oh, absolutely. Totally normal. And often, actually, a good idea. Take a short pause. Organize your thoughts. It shows you're being thoughtful, not just blurting something out.
But you don't want a long, awkward silence, right? That might seem like you don't know.
Exactly. So use some little phrases to buy yourself that moment naturally.
Like what?
You could say something like, let me think about that for a moment, or that's an interesting question, or even just a natural sounding, well, followed by a tiny pause.
Okay, so those sound fine, not like you're stuck.
Not at all. They sound completely natural and give you that crucial second or two to structure your response. Much better than dead air.
That's a really useful tip.
Mm.
Okay, another thing, this idea that longer answers are always better. Is that true? Should people just try and talk and talk?
Not necessarily, no. Definitely not. In fact, quality is almost always more important than quantity. Examiners want clear, well-developed ideas that answer the question directly.
Right.
Someone who rambles on for ages without much structure or focus might actually score lower than someone who gives a concise, focused, well-organized answer.
That makes sense, especially thinking about timing. Like in TOEFL, you only have a short window, right?
Exactly. TOEFL responses are timed strictly. You have to be focused. And even in IELTS Part 2, where you speak for 1 to 2 minutes, the examiner might actually stop you once you've covered the main points well.
Oh, really? They can cut you off.
Yeah, if you've fulfilled the task. So it's better to aim for depth and clarity in a reasonable time. Give 1 or 2 strong examples rather than trying to list 10 things vaguely.
Focus on quality, not just filling time. Got it. So it sounds like practice with typical questions is just essential.
Absolutely crucial. Getting familiar with the kinds of prompts makes you feel way more prepared, less anxious.
And we have some examples of those, right? Like, describe your favorite way to relax and explain why. Or big city versus small town living, why? What else?
Yeah, or maybe advantages and disadvantages of social media. Those are classic prompts.
Right?
And the best way to prep is to actually practice answering them out loud, using techniques like PRP, and definitely record yourself.
Recording yourself. That can be painful but useful. What should you listen for when you play it back?
Good question. Look for structure. Clear beginning, middle, end. Did you answer all parts of the prompt? Did you use linking words effectively? Were your examples specific and relevant?
And how did it sound overall?
Exactly. How was the flow? Did you sound confident, hesitate too much? That kind of self-assessment is incredibly valuable for spotting where you need to improve.
Okay, great advice. Now, we've hammered structure pretty hard, but what about the language itself? Vocabulary, grammar range, how much does that matter?
Oh, it definitely matters. Examiners are looking for a range. You want to showcase your language ability. Try hard to avoid repeating the same simple words or sentence structures over and over.
So variety is key.
Variety is key. Showing you have a wider repertoire will absolutely boost your score.
Can you give an example? Like, instead of saying, I think it's good, multiple times.
Sure. Instead of just, I think this is important, maybe try, I believe this is significant, or, in my opinion, this plays a crucial role. Mix it up.
Okay.
And same with grammar. Mix simple and more complex sentences. Maybe try using conditionals or comparatives. You don't need to force super complex stuff, but show you can use different structures accurately.
Makes sense. Showcase what you know. And what about pronunciation and fluency? Big worries for many learners?
Understandable worries. Clear pronunciation is vital. The examiner has to understand you easily. You don't need a native accent, not at all.
That's reassuring.
But focus on things like pronouncing words clearly, getting the stress right on syllables and important words in sentences, and intonation.
Word stress, sentence stress, intonation. Remind us why they're important again, quickly.
Sure. Word stress hitting the right syllable can change meaning. Sentence stress emphasizing key words highlights your main message. Intonation, the rise and fall, adds meaning, signals questions, emotion. It makes speech engaging.
And how to improve.
Listening to native speakers and mimicking them shadowing is a great technique for all of these. And for fluency, it's about speaking smoothly, naturally, without too many hesitations.
Okay. Now, sometimes people use fillers, right? Like, you know, are those always bad in a test?
Not necessarily always bad. A few natural fillers can actually make you sound more spontaneous, like you're thinking. The danger is overusing them.
Right, if it's constant,
Exactly. That gets distracting, makes you sound unsure. It's often better, if you need a moment, to use what we might call transitional fillers.
Transitional fillers, what are those?
They're phrases that give you thinking time but also keep the conversation moving forward logically. Like what I'm trying to say is, or to put it another way, or, well, the main point is.
Ah, okay. So they bridge the gap while you think, but still sound structured.
Exactly. They maintain flow much better than just,
Great tip. Finally, let's quickly touch on nerves. Test day anxiety is real. How can learners manage that?
It is real
Yep.
and totally normal. But it can definitely hurt performance. The absolute best defense is preparation.
Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll feel with the format, the questions. Confidence comes from knowing you're prepared.
Anything else?
Some simple breathing exercises just before you go in can really help calm you down. And visualization, picturing yourself speaking clearly, confidently. That sounds a bit cheesy maybe, but it can work.
Preparedness builds confidence, which reduces nerves.
Got it. Yeah. Knowing you've done the work makes a huge difference.
Okay, so just briefly before we wrap up, are there any major structural differences to keep in mind between, say, IELTS and TOEFL speaking?
Good question. The core principles of good structure apply to both. But yeah, some nuances. IELTS is face-to-face, 3 parts, often with follow-up questions in part 3, so you need to be ready to elaborate or discuss further. Structure helps keep those extended answers coherent.
Okay, more interactive maybe?
Potentially, yes. TOEFL is recorded responses and includes integrated tasks where you read or listen first, then speak. So clearly summarizing key points from the source material and then adding your own structured response is vital there.
So structure helps manage that integration task too.
Absolutely. But again, a clear point, reason, example approach works wonders in both tests for the independent speaking parts. Good structure is universally beneficial.
Fantastic. Well, that was incredibly helpful. To just quickly summarize then, structuring your response, using methods like PrEP, making sure you answer every part of the question, using those linking words for slow, focusing on clear development rather than just talking a lot, all of that will seriously improve your score.
Absolutely. Don't just focus on knowing English. Focus on presenting what you know in an organized, confident way. That's the takeaway.
Couldn't agree more. So, for everyone listening and prepping for those tests, think about this. Which aspect of structuring your speaking do you think will be most helpful? Maybe give that PRP method a try with one of those sample questions we mentioned earlier today.
Great idea. Start practicing that structure. It really does make a difference.